Welcome back to King Josiah TV, where this channel was created to educate, promote, and inform on the kingdom of Jesus Christ. As an ambassador, I am your host, Josiah. And before we get started, guys, I want you to do me a good favor. If you're listening audibly on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please give me that follow button. If you're listening on YouTube, go ahead and smash that subscribe button. All right, guys, let's get into it.
Watch giants fall like Goliath. David, I dance. This ain't no tick-tock. God told me that my steps was ordered. Walking in flip-flops. Chris Rock, how they laughed at me.
Next topic I want to talk about again. We're going to talk about again. She's came up a few times, but she had a really good interview with Don Lemon on his, I didn't really know he had a podcast or a YouTube channel till recently. And so Candace Owens, he interviewed her. And they talked about pretty much their interview. I'm going to keep on two different parts of the interview. One, when Don Lemon talks about the persecution of Christians, and he actually laughs. He laughed about it like it was funny. The persecution of Christians, and Christians aren't being persecuted. Lastly, they talk about marriage and the sanctity of that same-sex marriage and whether or not that's okay or not. She pretty much calls him out on his stuff. And that's one thing I do like about Candace Owens. Regardless if I don't agree with everything she says, she at least stands firm on truth and stands firm on particular topics. But without further ado, guys, we're going to go ahead and get to this just a second.
Why do you feel the need then to sort of go down this rabbit hole and to defend something that was horrific and to say that, you know, we had other, why are you comparing what happened in the Holocaust to other atrocities? Because it's awful. Why can't you just stick with the Holocaust? And
why can't I cover Christian history? What is this? What do you mean stick with the Holocaust? What do you mean by that?
People's actions? I don't understand that.
Nobody defended any actions. That episode was about the fact that after the war, and this was documentary, not a Candace Owens documentary. It's a BBC documentary and I played parts of the documentary. It talks about how the Allies committed atrocities against the German-speaking civilians. They were not people who voted for Hitler. They were not Nazis. They were children who were lined up and shot. Their bodies were thrown on the ground while they were alive, and they were rolled over on cars. The footage is in the BBC documentary. It's called The Savage Peace. When people watch this documentary, they are so astonished and shocked that we didn't learn about it in school that they begin asking real serious questions. And one of those questions that you ask is, why are we not told about the mass killing of Christians all around the world? What you just said, like, why can't we just let it be about the Holocaust? What is that? Well, that's like the most selfish thing in the entire world. Let me finish. The most selfish thing in the entire world is for me to spend an hour talking about the atrocities that innocent Christians who had nothing to do with Adolf Hitler faced, and then to have Zionist media talking heads somehow make it about the Holocaust. It's not about the Holocaust, okay? Christians suffered too. In fact, we are the most persecuted religion in the world.
And I'm going to let her finish her statement because she's actually getting to the focal point. But she's exactly true. I mean, less than a few weeks ago, I saw a video of Christians lined up on a beach with pretty much looks like potato sacks over their head. And they shot him and killed him in broad daylight. Because of Jesus Christ. I've also, if you talk about the 1040 window and on the other side of the world, pretty much there's a spectrum of the world where you can't, in China and Asia, where you can't even speak or outwardly talk about your Christian faith, or they will kill you on site. It's not a conversation. It's not something that they go over with. And a lot of people don't talk about it because in America, we can talk about these things. We can have these discussions. We can have these debates on our social platforms, and it's okay. And that's something that's great that we have that here. But that's not so in every part of the world. And even going back into history, there's been persecution of Christians since the beginning, before we were called Christians even. But I'm gonna let her finish.
And I am so sick of it. I am so sick of there can only be one victim narrative. And if you start talking about,
and we are not the most persecuted in the world. Come on.
That is a fact. What are you saying? We're not the most persecuted in the world. Do you know what's happening in Armenia? Do you know what's happening in Nigeria? Do you know what just happened in Canada? The fake story that was propagated by all of the mainstream networks about the nuns, and they found the mass burial, which allowed 85 Catholic churches to be burned to the ground in the last 3 years in Canada. We are still being persecuted right now. Okay. So I take great offense to you coming in here about the sensitivities of the people that are working on your show when I'm sitting here telling you that
When did Don Lemon become a Christian? I'm sorry, I'm just listening to this and I'm trying to I'm in my head. I'm like, Don Lemon has never been a Christian. Like, I'm sorry. I mean, hey, if God's got his heart and God's working on him, I do hope that. But everything that he stands for, talks about, and promotes isn't biblical. And so for him to even say that, oh, we're not persecuted, you're not even an outstanding Christian, somebody that stands out outright for and stands up for Christian values. Yeah, obviously you're not persecuted because you go with everything the world says.
Christian, I'm offended by what you're saying, and you laugh. You mock Christian persecution.
Very important.
Do you think people to laugh when someone tells you about Christian persecution? Because let me tell you something. If I had done that, I think it's laughable about the Holocaust. I don't think it's funny. I would be chased out of polite society. Then don't laugh. Don't laugh at Christian persecution. Don't do it. Laughable
is mean that the name is in the term. It's laughable.
Do not laugh. You literally just laughed when I talked about Christian persecution. Don't do that ever.
See how he tries to skip over that? Like, dude, he completely chuckled when she did that. There was no mistaking it. There was no, and see how he's trying to mull over it like he didn't do that. Let her speak on any other topic or any other subject, and she laugh on it like he did. She would be ripped to pieces. It's so crazy to me how the liberals, they want to talk on other people. They want to say what they want to say. They want to have their opinion. They are some of the most aggressive individuals over anything and everything. But let anybody say anything about them and it's a problem. But they say anything about us and it's laughable. We shouldn't defend ourselves. We're not important. But when something's with them, it's of utmost importance. You got to respect it.
Again, not in my presence.
What you're saying is, okay, Candace, thank you. So what you're saying is, oh, you know what? The Holocaust was bad, but look over here. These people were worse than the Holocaust, so we should.
That's not that. First off,
that's what it sounds like. I'm telling you, that's what it sounds like.
You just said you didn't watch the episode.
No, but I'm saying that's what it sounds like. That's what you're saying. I don't have to watch the episode. I was listening to the words that you just said. You just spent 3 or 4 minutes talking about the other atrocities and how bad they were.
Yes, the other atrocities that have happened in human history outside of the Holocaust are things that we are relevant and allowed to talk about, especially when the numbers of Christians that were persecuted following the Russian Revolution and the manner in which they were killed, people that were beheaded, priests that were shot. Yes, it is. I can talk about Christian history and I don't need to feel guilty about that, and I won't.
That's fine. All right, good. You don't have to feel guilty. You don't have to.
And please, genuinely, please, never, please, when I come on your show, have enough respect not to laugh when I talk about Christian persecution, because you would never do that if I was Jewish and I was talking about the Holocaust.
You can't tell me.
You would never do that.
You should have enough to know not to tell people how to react. You can't tell someone not to laugh.
Okay. Well, then I double dare you when a Jewish person is talking about.
You want to tell him you want to try to tell her how to react, but everything that she says against things that he believes in, if you tell you guys, please go back and watch this whole interview. It's like an hour and like 27 minutes long. He does it the whole time. Every time she says something against what he believes, he corrects her. He tells her to sit up straight, to not react that way. I mean, maybe I'm crazy and I just caught that, but we're going to move on to the next part of their conversation where they talked about marriage and same-sex marriage, but pertaining to Christians and persecution, guys, that's a very real thing in the world today. It's something that actually does happen in our world. And it's something that we can't overlook, and we need to pray for those individuals and those Christians that are in those areas and those places, because we are fortunate enough as believers to be able to meet in our church homes and be comfortable and not worry about someone coming in and shooting us or killing us because we're worshiping our God openly. And some people in this world, and some Christians, do not have that grace and that ability to do that. They have to have churches in places in the dark, in the basements where no one can see them or hear them. They have to hide their Bibles and even memorize it. This is a very real thing. So don't take for granted that you live in a place that you can outwardly do that, because it's going to become a time very soon where we will not be able to do this so openly. Before I get you out of here, though, please go ahead and smash that subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit the notification button so you don't miss a single video that I post. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, go and give me the follow button. Again, thank you guys for sticking along with me. I will see you next time.
But my salvation on me like it's a helmet. The way your sin is death for send you to hell quick. Wanted to be all about me, God, I was selfish. I was rebellious, but you didn't let me go.